Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast special breaking news edition. I'm Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Riley and Eric Daytona Ron. And we had most likely the biggest NASCAR news bombshell drop this morning. And I'm going to read the statement straight from 2311, Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin in a presser put out today, Charlotte, North Carolina, October 7th, 2024. 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports today jointly filed an antitrust lawsuit in the Western District of North Carolina against the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, NASCAR, and its CEO, Jim France, arguing that the stock car racing circuit and its leadership have used anti-competitive practices to prevent fair competition in the sport. Oh my God, I'm so excited I can't breathe.
Take a breath. We're all good.
This is all of the charter news we've been covering over the last 2 years coming to a head. In a joint statement, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports said, quote, "We share a passion for racing, the thrill of competition, and winning off the racetrack. We share a belief that change is necessary for the sport we love. Together, we brought this antitrust case so that racing can thrive and become a more competitive and fair sport in ways that will benefit teams, drivers, sponsors, and most importantly, the fans," end quote. According to the press release, NASCAR and the France family operate without transparency, which anybody who wants to see the rule book knows exactly what we're talking about, have stifled competition and control the sport of stock car racing in ways that unfairly benefit them at the expense of the team owners, drivers, sponsors, partners, and fans through the following anti-competitive practices. And they list a couple bullet points here. 1, buying a majority of premier racetracks that are exclusive to NASCAR races. As we know, they own a ton of racetracks. And I saw a old tweet from 2021 from David Land, who is a IndyCar reporter, social media guy. IndyCar apparently tried to return to Homestead, Miami, and according to him, they were denied by NASCAR. So that is just one example that I found while I was doing my research today. Bullet point 2, they impose exclusivity deals on NASCAR's sanctioned racetracks. Hence, IndyCar not being able to run at Homestead. They've acquired Automobile Racing Club of America, also known as ARCA, the only notable stock car racing series competitor, and they've been preventing teams from participating in any other stock car races while also retaining ownership over next-gen parts and cars and forcing teams to buy their parts from single-source suppliers chosen by NASCAR. Quote, "No other major professional sport in North America is run by a single family that enriches themselves through these kinds of unchecked monopolistic practices. Central to the lawsuit are the original NASCAR charters adopted in 2016 and the recently updated 2025 agreement, which the 2311 and Front Row Motorsports teams did not sign because of the unfair terms. After more than 2 years of attempted negotiations over 2025 agreements, during which NASCAR continuously stonewalled and refused to engage constructively, we conclude that litigation was the only way to address this anti-competitive practice of NASCAR and the France family." And that's exactly what we've been updating you guys over this whole entire year. Anytime the teams flat out said NASCAR isn't budging and they're trying to divide us. So that's just my little add-on.
If you paid attention, and when I know we're not the only ones, we're not tooting a horn or anything, but if you paid attention specifically to White Man over here, our host, we've been saying the only way that it sounds like that this is going to get handled is through litigation. And we weren't sure if that was ever going to happen until this morning. So
absolutely. If you go back a couple weeks, we weren't sure what the game plan of 2311 and Front Row Motorsports was going to be after they essentially said, we're not signing your midnight deal. And here it is. And
it all makes sense going back to watching Denny's post-race interview on the tarmac on Sunday, too, how he was disheveled. He said he mentally wasn't there. Well, now we know why.
Absolutely. This weighs on an owner and a driver who's running in NASCAR. And even if you go back to our pre-Daytona discussions, they were talking about litigation even back then in so many words, if you read between the lines. Let's see. 2311 was founded in 2020 by Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, Curtis Polk, and Front Row Motorsports is owned by Bob Jenkins and has been racing full-time since 2025. 2311 and Front Row Motorsports have retained Winston and Strawn LLP as legal counsel, led by Jeffrey Kessler, Winston and Strawn LLP partner and co-executive chairman. And if you don't know the name, he is the lawyer who worked the deal for the NCAA players to get paid for their likenesses, for jersey sales and all sorts of stuff. So he is a hard-nosed
he fought for the
attorney.
women's U.S. soccer team to get paid the same as the men's.
Yeah.
He also was part of the Tom Brady Deflategate. This dude is a sports lawyer through and through, and he wins almost every time that he goes up against somebody. And NASCAR, it looks like you're up. And, you know, the wording that he said was absolutely incredible, because he basically said this is a shut case because the new laws are going to force NASCAR to change their ways. It's basically until somebody, which Denny Hamlin and Front Row, brought this to litigation, NASCAR was running under their own rules, their own laws, their own. They were in the old school way of doing stuff, and no one knows because, you know, our sport isn't the most popular in the world compared to the MLBs and the stick sports. And you know, this is what it took for these new laws to look through the rule book of NASCAR, see what they're doing, see what they're engaging in, and see if they are following those rules. And apparently from Kessler, they are not. And they're most likely going to have to change and update their rules.
Yeah, there was sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. So also, like, if you're a longtime listeners of us, obviously love the sport, don't have to go down that road. But we've also been saying, like, shit needs to change with NASCAR. Like everything, the way it's the length of the season, the way they handle business, the way it's a monopoly where the France family owns and operates and does all the rules and all that. Like it just, it's not right. It doesn't seem right. And finally, we're super excited.
Yeah.
Like we're giddy as all hell because it's like, finally, let's get some fucking change to the sport that we love so much. And let's hopefully change for the positive, which we're kind of hoping that this is what brings upon positive change.
And that's the thing. Things could change for the negative. Things could change for the positive. Things could not change at all. Who knows if they even get to litigation. A lot of these types of lawsuits get settled out of court before they ever make it to court. So don't be surprised if that happened. Also, just a side note, listening to Adam Stern this morning, he talked about this type of antitrust lawsuit. It could take up to months, years, or even a decade to litigate all of this. He's been following a UFC antitrust lawsuit that's been going on for almost 10 years, where even those two parties agreed on terms, but the judge hasn't agreed to the terms that they came to. So they have to go back and rework that deal. But the point I wanted to make, too, was when Eric said this guy wins cases, Kessler is quoted, "We filed this case and we expect to win this case. One way or another, stock car racing is going to change in this country for the better." And I also have some other numbers to throw out there. This is per Bob Pockrass. Do you guys want to get into like the financials of it all now?
Oh, yeah, get it.
I didn't.
Open.
I didn't finish that statement, but there was some quotes from Denny Hamlin and Bob Jenkins where they're just, you know, we want change. We want the race teams to get a bigger piece of the pie. Oh, and to Matt's point too, a couple of years ago, we saw a video of Jeff Gordon saying how Hendrick hasn't made money in almost a decade, and we called bullshit on it. But I'm starting to believe that they're not lying. Like, they are actively losing money as teams every single year. There's an old joke. It's, how do you make a fortune in racing? Well, you start with a bigger fortune and then you go racing, you know, like right. you end up losing it all. But to go over some of the financials, this is per Bob Pockrass on Twitter. And there's some, well, Well, let's go over some of the details of it. So one of the new 2025 charter provisions is that teams release NASCAR of antitrust claims in the first place. As part of the lawsuit, 2311 and Front Row are asking for a preliminary injunction that will allow them to compete as charter teams in 2025 while proceedings with the lawsuit still go on. So we're expecting them to race in 2025. That will be up to the judge to say if they're allowed to or not. I'm assuming they will. Do you guys have any thoughts about those two teams running in the Cup Series in 2025 as litigation goes on?
Well, yeah, I think they should be able to run. I think, this was NASCAR's way of trying to pull the wool over some people's eyes and get them to sign so that, hey, nope, you can't do that. And when we say your charter's worthless and means nothing, then your charter's worthless and means nothing. So kudos to Denny for I guess noticing that and being like, no, if this is what it is, then I think this really comes down to, we want to talk financials. It comes down to Denny and Front Row
they're investing in the sport right now,
Yes, but they have the fuck you money, to put it in light terms, if they lose their charter, who cares?
Yeah.
That MJ money comes in there. Now, Bob Jenkins, don't get me wrong. I mean, you see the Long John Silver's car on that every weekend, that paint scheme. He owns Taco Bell's, Long John Silver's. That guy's got some cash, too. So,
he's got cash.
I mean, these people, they're willing. They have that bankroll to go after NASCAR when most of the people don't have that. And, this is smart on them. And I still have no words, because I still can't believe Denny and they're actually
doing it. Like, it's insane. In terms of and it's crazy to call Michael Jordan David in the situation, but this is David versus Goliath. This is billionaire family owner of NASCAR versus millionaire team owner. And I know, like, as an average person, you're like, well, fuck both these guys. Like, they should be happy with their money. And I kind of agree. But at the same time, you have to look at all of the people they're employing, all the people that they're taking to the track, all of the money being invested. And that brings me to the next part, where they still plan to buy the two open charters. So going through the lawsuit again, Bob Pocker says it does say that 2311 and Front Row Motorsports have entered into purchase agreements for third charters from a racing team whose owner had signed the 2025 charter agreement. Of course, they're referring to the SHR charters, where SHR agreed to the terms. They are still buying those charters in hopes that this lawsuit does affect that. But let's get into some of the money, because the lawsuit claims teams' revenue is less than what they could be getting in a competitive market because NASCAR owns the majority of the tracks, prohibits similar stock car races at any cup track. NASCAR requires teams to buy parts, pieces from specific vendors, and wants to control teams' IP rights. That's intellectual property made by the teams. And I feel
that's the part,
it's
Whitey,
huge.
that I was shocked about. That was the eye-opening thing to me. NASCAR wants to own everything. Their likeness, their brand, everything that, like,
the
airspeed,
fonts on the
everything that
numbers.
Denny is.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to do that? Like, you want to, like, okay, do you want to talk value of a charter? Well, when you don't even, did you know this? I didn't know this either.
Mm-hmm.
It costs $3 million for a car, a Gen 7 car or whatever.
Yeah. Just for the car and the pieces.
They don't even get to keep that car. That is not their car.
It's leased.
It's the team's car.
Is it leased through agreements?
NASCAR owns that because every part that went into that car came from the NASCAR vendors. NASCAR owns that. Mm-hmm. So not only if the guys wanted to sell their stuff off to make money, if they said whatever, nope, you don't own any of those parts and pieces to those cars anyway.
A comparison could be used for a regular person. When you buy something on iTunes, you're buying the license to stream that thing through iTunes. You don't actually own the media you're buying. So, like, say you go and you buy a DVD, you own that movie. But if you own it on iTunes, at any time, if they rework their negotiations with whatever entity owns that piece of art, they pull it right from your phone or your tablet or whatever. That's essentially what NASCAR wants.
It happened with me. I don't know the exact. That sounds like what happened with me with Garth Brooks. So I had a couple of Garth Brooks albums downloaded on my phone through Amazon.
Yeah.
I believe that's who he has the contract with.
Mhm.
And I went to go play some Garth Brooks like last week, and like it all got pulled, and I have no idea why. And I'm assuming something happened with a reworked contract or something where it's like, where's the music that I fucking paid for?
You don't have it anymore because they don't have the rights for it anymore.
Through this coming out, I don't know how any of these other teams signed the deal.
And
like NASCAR owns they basically were trying to just be, they were owning everything. There's no way out. As a team, there is no way you can make money. There's no way out there. Even if you want to sell, they own all the shit that is in your garage, everything.
Yeah.
Their own, the IP. That is all your branding. They wanted to own everything.
Everything.
Guys, I have to bail. I left my wife cooking dinner with a cranky 2-year-old. So I literally just got home, ran upstairs, changed, and jumped on. So I will listen to the rest of this, but let's fucking go, Denny, MJ, and Front Row Motorsports.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you jumping on, Matt. Hold on. What are you guys cooking for dinner tonight?
Chicken and broccoli, like roll-ups and like wraps or something. They're fantastic. Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. Well, I hope you enjoy and have fun with the rest of your Wednesday.
Love you guys.
Love you, bud. All right. I do want to jump into some of the financials. I was hoping to get to this while Matt was still on. And Eric, I know you have to leave for darts in a little bit too, so I won't hold you very long. But Curtis Polk, who is part owner of 2311, believes that teams get about 13% of the overall revenue of the sport. He estimates that drivers average about $3 million. So he estimates about $100 million total to drivers in a sport that generates $3 billion in revenue. So what is that?
It's unfathomable the amount that they're making that they could be giving out. And it's selfish, it's greed at this point, and it's all being exposed right now. And that's why we're giddy, because we're not fans of NASCAR and that higher up in the France family. And we know that greasy shit always happens. And this is Denny Hamlin. There's that curtain covered in those greasy fingerprints. Oh yeah. And NASCAR doesn't want that curtain pulled back. That is when you said, is it going to go to litigate? Like, is it going to go to a jury, or is it going to go to, we don't know if it's going to get settled out of court or not. And I mean, you and I, we talked earlier today. I think we kind of both agree that it's going to get settled out of court.
Because NASCAR doesn't want to release their financial statements to the world. And that's the whole thing.
Then they'll really know how much a car is, how much this track makes, how much this brought in, the attendance, everything. And if these cup teams see this and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, why are we struggling to get sponsorship money if you guys are fucking making 80% more than what you're fucking telling us you are? Like, that's some greasy shit.
Oh yeah. And then you have to think about just the backroom deals. Like you said, we talk about greasy palm deals with the France family all the time on this podcast. But honestly, what kind of deals did they work with single source suppliers? How much is the MSRP going out to teams versus the supplier cost to produce? All of these profits, are they co-owners of these suppliers in the first place? We don't know. Last night on the podcast, you guys weren't there, but I talked about the new Netflix series that we all loved last season of. It's being produced by now NASCAR in-house, so they control the narrative of everything too. Not only that, just in case fans are worried, like will 2311 or Front Row race in the future, Curtis Polk and Bob Jenkins both said that they plan to race. Even if they don't get the injunction to race as a charter team, they will try to race as open teams. So that kind of keeps it all together, where they will try to compete, and they will ask the judge to make sure that NASCAR doesn't kind of hold all this stuff against them and treat them unfairly, where at the same time too, it kind of goes like, is NASCAR gonna rig shit against these guys? Are they gonna find things?
I know, because this is every single thing is going to be under a microscope now. So Denny Hamlin gets a pit road penalty, or gets a tech, doesn't make it through tech, or he passes or he fails a post-race inspection. Guess what? They are going to want NASCAR to know exactly why he failed, exactly what their reasoning is, and they are going to go over that with a fine-tooth comb as to why you did this, why you did that. In a way, Denny, this could benefit him as far as getting a speeding penalty on pit road or having this called against you. they don't want to make any more bad blood with Denny or that team or just themselves in general. Oh, guess what? I'm in a lawsuit with this guy. And 3 weeks in a row, he has this, and this happen. Oh, he doesn't win the championship because NASCAR threw this caution or calling it this. Oh, NASCAR is going to be under a microscope from this point forward, bro.
And now we know why Denny's been distracted the last couple weeks and running the way he has. I know he's been really struggling. Imagine having this on the mind while you're going out and trying to compete too. I also have there was a news conference. I think we pretty much covered everything, but I just really loved this quote from Kessler, their lawyer. There is no other major sport where one family has run the sport as its own personal fiefdom and piggy bank. And goddamn, doesn't that feel true? Also, in every antitrust case, the victims are taking what they can get, which is all the other teams signing. A lot of victims will continue to be victims until this wrong is righted. So they are really fighting on behalf of the teams. And again, without the teams, what are the fans showing up to watch? You know?
Well, Bianchi said he wrote an article about when this first happened in the very first race at Talladega.
Back in the 60s, yeah.
Walked out and said, we're not racing. And the France family said, all right, see you later. And guess what happened? The drivers folded, they came back and they raced. But even back then, greasy shit was happening where basically the Babe Ruth of NASCAR back then, names
I know you're talking.
Not coming to me right now, but they basically kicked him out of the sport because he was part of the Teamsters, and they didn't want any kind of union or any other kind of, just competition as far as them and making money and ownership there to work their way into the sport because they wanted it for themselves. They wanted to control the narrative, the money, everything. And that was way back when. Now up to this point, it's the same family from back then that's
doing the
still
same
fucking
shit.
doing it now. So data and history is against NASCAR here. Every single time someone wanted to go up against NASCAR, sue NASCAR, walk out, have a strike against NASCAR, NASCAR won.
Yeah.
Because they bullied, and all of this is going to come out. And it's going to make NASCAR look bad. It's like, oh, you're not a monopoly, but how come every time you just did this and you flexed your muscle and then you made them bend their knee? And it's like, that doesn't look good.
I'm glad you said bully because it reminded me of one of the best quotes. At the beginning of the lawsuit says, the opening statement of the lawsuit is, the France family and NASCAR are monopolistic bullies, and bullies will continue to impose their will to hurt others until their targets stand up and refuse to be victims. That moment has now arrived. And you're absolutely right. If you go back a couple of seasons, we used to do the NASCAR history segment. And we did a history segment about that race at Talladega where Goodyear, of all places, was having terrible tire issues. The track was eating up tires, and the drivers thought it was dangerous. They refused to race, except for like 3 guys that crossed the picket line. So what did they do? They got the Xfinity guys to drive on Sunday. It was one of the worst NASCAR races in all of history considered. And then Big Bill France broke up essentially the union, kicked that one guy. I forget his name too, but he was one of the all-star premier drivers in the late 60s. And yeah, we've just seen it over and over again. And it's because the South doesn't have a union culture like the North did with, auto workers in the Midwest, coal unions here. We had manufacturing with the garment industry in Pittston. My grandmother was part of the garment union by the union label. This came from China, though. But again, this is a monumental lawsuit that they are filing. Again, this is just the first step. It's the big breaking news. It's David versus Goliath, and NASCAR is Goliath. We will see what happens. If anyone has a dick big enough to swing at NASCAR, it's Michael Jordan in 2311.
Yeah, and that's Bianchi. He said he talked to a team owner either today or yesterday, and they said to him, the reason they signed was because they didn't have big enough balls to do what Denny and what Front Row was doing. He said it straight out. He goes, I don't have the balls to do it. I didn't have the balls to go up against NASCAR, so I just signed it and said I'm going to continue racing and doing whatever. And that is why this is so big, because we could be seeing the sport. This is what happens. If you're a listener of our show for a little while, we've been complaining and bitching about the Gen 7 car, the things that they could do, the things they're not doing about it. This here is a way to keep that going in NASCAR's favor because they control everything. They can control what to be done with this car. And if anything gets done with this car. Now, if they win this and Denny and the teams get more saying stuff, guess what? Maybe the teams will now be like, I'm not using that. We can make this better.
Let's invest in more.
Let us work on the car. Let us try this because we have a team that maybe could figure this out. And that's what NASCAR is preventing because they don't make money off of that.
Eric, that is such a great fucking point because what are we constantly been told about the purpose for this car? It was to save teams money. The teams are begging, please save us. We need to save money. Well, an easy way to get teams more money is giving them a bigger piece of the giant pie you have. Again, the teams are getting 13% of how many billions was it? The new TV deal? It was over $8 billion. I forget.
Oh, it was huge. Yeah.
It was the biggest television rights deal signed for NASCAR in the history of NASCAR, even bigger than the heyday, adjusted for inflation and all that stuff. So again, give these teams a bigger piece of the pie. Let them have at these single source parts. Cut out some of the monopoly shit. And this isn't the only antitrust lawsuit going on in America. If you remember last year, Taylor Swift, there was a whole ordeal about Taylor Swift and her Eras Tour and Ticketmaster and Live Nation. And that is going through the courts right now, too. I don't have any updates since May about that whole deal, but it's kind of the similar situation where Ticketmaster sells you the tickets with all those fees on top of it. Well, they also own the venues that the bands are playing at that you're buying tickets for. So not only do they impose the fees, but then they get the kickback of you showing up to the venue, buying concessions where they pay their workers minimum wage, and then you buy a $20 beer where that guy's selling beer all night and he can't even afford to buy his own. And then whatchamacallit? If you don't go through Ticketmaster, they blacklist your bands where you can't play Live Nation venues and you can't sell your tickets on Ticketmaster. And
and you just put that into the NASCAR world. It's their tracks. You're going there.
Yeah, you're going to their tracks. You're buying their concessions.
And it's like, dude, like, how do you not see that they're double dipping in all of this? And it's like they're just breaking in so much money off of this. Meanwhile, like you just said, Whitey, the teams are begging for fucking money, begging to get a little bit of help. And then they're over here sitting in their high towers and their golden chairs laughing at everybody.
And then what do we talk about sponsorship all the time? These guys have no identity because every week the car has a different sponsor, right? Do you remember back in the day, we had the Kodak car, the number 4, yellow. I can imagine in my head, the black Goodwrench car, number 3. We had all of these cars because they ran the same scheme week in and week out. Now there's no brand identity because you have to take money wherever you can get it. Now, if you had teams getting more money from the sanctioning body and from these deals, well, now you could run the same spots. You don't need as much sponsorship money to keep the ship going.
So instead of paying Lowe's or Home Depot, it's going to cost Lowe's and Home Depot. Oh, it's like $5 million. You want to be on ours? It's $5 million. Yeah. Well, now instead of needing $5 million to run your team, you might be able to go call Kodak and say, "Hey, I just need give me $100,000. You could put your sponsor on my car. $100,000. That's it." Yeah. And teams will be like, "Shit, I spent $5 million. I could do $100,000 times 26 races. Oh shit." I'm saving money and I'm on more races.
Yeah.
So it helps everybody. And that's what NASCAR is trying to stop. They're going to,
while they want to own your car picture with that fucking sponsor on it. Oh my God.
It's so ridiculous that I don't know any which way NASCAR allows this to go through to court. Like I don't see that. Like NASCAR has no way out of it unless there's some weird by the law, this is what we're doing, and hey, we're not breaking a law. But I don't think they're breaking a law currently, but I don't think they're up to date on what the new laws are, is what Kessler is saying.
Yeah, like the new antitrust laws.
To have to abide by the new law, which in turn wouldn't allow them to do the shit that they're fucking doing.
And the whole thing too, like, yes, it could settle out of court before anything gets to litigation. But what a lot of big corporations with the money to do it is, they just forced litigation for years and years to dry out the opponent, try to make them run out of money where they just fucking give up and pack it up in.
Well, guess what? Michael Jordan is worth just as much as NASCAR.
Absolutely.
So good luck trying to drain that guy of money because he's low on little funds. Oh, they're dragging this on for 2 years. Oh, guess all. Michael Jordan comes out with a 35 or 40-year anniversary sneaker. There's $1 billion in an hour.
Right there.
In an hour, he's going to make $1 billion with a throwback shoe. It's too easy for MJ. And like, okay, everybody is always afraid to go up against NASCAR. NASCAR is this powerful, rich billionaire of a family. I don't know if NASCAR really wants to fight and go against this team. And like, do you
want
really?
that MJ
it's the most
smoke?
Iconic
you want that MJ smoke
in the world?
Just the headlines.
And you're going to go against them.
The headlines: Michael Jordan sues NASCAR.
It's a bad look for them every which way you look. It's a bad look for them. Like I said, it's a bad look. It's a bad look with just the headlines now. It's a bad look when they are actually going through the bullshit when they're in it. It's a bad look if they fuck over Denny and 2311 with bullshit during races. There is no out, I feel like, for NASCAR in this.
No, and it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be a fun story to watch, but it's going to be a very interesting battle.
It's going to be long, though. That's the part that pisses me off.
Yeah.
This is going to, like, we're excited now, and we think something's going to happen by the end of the week, and it's like, fuck, dude, it could be 2028 by the time we even realize what the hell's going on.
It could be 2030 before this shit all gets sorted out. When does the next TV rights deal end? That's it, you know?
Yeah.
But we will find out. Thanks for jumping in. Emergency press conference. We had to do it. Got to get you to darts, though. We're cutting it close, and good shooting, brother. Thanks.
Oh, I'm gonna go. I need it. Haven't been too good this year.
Well, you want to what? Just be like Mike. Be like Mike. You're MJ tonight.
Great
You're the
point.
fucking
Great
goat. You're the
point.
fucking goat. Go out and get him. All right. For Matt the Statman Riley, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
The bump and run. There it is.